The process of healing is not always the most cost effective or cheap thing you are going to do in your life. And this episode is for you if you've ever found yourself saying, "This is too expensive for me," while you've been trying to heal, or if you've ever had to say no to or delay buying a life-changing lab, supplement protocol, or program because you weren't able to afford it. If you've been overwhelmed at any point with how much the cost of healing is, then this episode is for you. The cost of healing is one of the most common reasons I'm told by clients or potential clients that they can't heal. So this month on the Better Belly podcast, I'm dedicating every episode to sharing with you the tips and hacks for how to make healing more affordable for you. On today's episode in particular, I'm sharing my top 3 tips to accurately estimate how much it will cost you to heal. This is a super powerful skill because, like with all things, being able to anticipate the cost can help us prepare for it. Whether it's buying a house, paying for college, or just saving up for a new oven, knowing the general price range can help you to save and mentally prepare for that cost so that once it does come up, you can pay for it. Without being able to accurately estimate how much it will cost you to heal, you end up over and over again with the surprise bills and being not financially prepared for what you want or need to pay to heal. And this results in a cycle of feeling like you can never be able to pay for anything. If you feel like you're drowning in health expenses or you don't know what costs are good deals or not, then this episode is for you. And P.S., for even more tips and tricks for how to make your health more affordable, be sure to check out the show notes where I've included previous episodes to help guide you even further in your healing journey and being able to pay for it. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. Okay, guys, so we have 3 tips today that I'm going to be going over for how to accurately estimate how much it's going to cost you to heal. And just to reiterate some of what I already shared in the very beginning, this is a super powerful skill that I'm not going to say you're going to suddenly magically know to the exact dollar how much you are going to pay, but you're going to have in your mind a range, a price range of what you're probably looking at for the type of healing that you need. And that is going to help you, like with all things that we need to financially prepare for, to be able to do that thing when it comes time to do it. You've already done this in your life, likely, where you've saved up for a car, you've saved up for a down payment for a house, you've saved up for college, even if it's not always saving, if there's taking out a loan, you've kind of mentally prepared for there's going to be a cost. And we're going to just dive into my 3 tips because I'm already starting to sort of talk about it. So tip number 1 is going to be manage expectations. So the way I like to think about this tip is just imagining the price range in categories of, is this a $10 solution, a $100 solution, a $1,000 solution, $10,000, or $100,000 solution? And I break that up, not saying it's going to be those exact price ranges, but are you kind of going to be in the range of tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, ten thousands of dollars. And some of you might already be feeling nauseated with me even mentioning maybe it'd be in the $10,000 or $100,000 range. But the only reason I even mention those upper parts of the range is not because I'm about to tell you it's going to be in that range, but because some things that we purchase in life are, right? A $300,000 house, depending on where you're at, like if you're in the heart of Chicago, that might be a normal price range, right? Or $100,000 house. Like we're thinking though, typically houses are going to be in that $100,000 range, whether it's 300,000, 100,000, 500,000. Again, the cool thing with how, for example, houses work is that you can still get a house. You just get different quantity of house, different amount of house. Maybe it's square footage, maybe it's how renovated it is, maybe it's its location based on the price. And for health and healing, we can be looking at the same thing where you might be able to heal in the $1,000 range, and the more expensive version of it where you haven't been as intentional, it's going to be $8,000. But if you're more intentional, it'll be $3,000, right? But understanding this, really just getting yourself in the right magnitude of price range, even if you still don't know the exact prices, really helps you have accurate planning. And in a non-financial example of this, I want you to think like, so I live in Michigan, and I know if I want to drive to Florida, it's going to take at least a day. Usually to where we go in Florida, where I have family, it's going to be like a day and a half. And that'd be if you don't sleep a lot. And it's like a very short sleep window and you keep driving. So if I start off a trip with my family to go to Florida, and I think it's only going to take the same amount of time that it takes me to get to my local grocery store, I'm going to be sorely disappointed. I'm going to need to pee. I might have not packed enough snacks. If there's a kid in the car, like my daughter, she might get really angry, like I didn't bring enough toys. We didn't plan. Like we're going to have hungry tummies. There's going to be that lack of planning that throws everything off and makes everything a lot more painful than it otherwise would have to be. Yes, a drive to Florida that's a day and a half is still a lot of time to have your butt in the seat. But if you psychologically know that, you can both do things to make that ride more comfortable, and you're also less irritated because you're not like surprised essentially. And so what's happening when I'm talking to clients and they're saying that things are too expensive in their health, it would be like saying, well, this car is too expensive. Well, the car has an appropriate cost for its age and the number of miles driven and the size and how well taken care of it is usually, right? Sometimes we'll find that cars are like, that's a really bad deal. It's just way too expensive. And you might not buy a car that's $50,000 if your budget's only $5,000, but you can still buy a car. So we want to think in terms of health. You are going to have to spend money, and it's most likely not a $10 fix, right? If it was a $10 fix, that's thinking like an over-the-counter supplement that you never have to buy again. It's like the one thing you have to buy and do. And I would say here, this is like being able to anticipate what price range you're going to be in. This is something that I think is very hard to do unless you've been in this field for a while. So I don't want to disempower you, but I will say this is something I feel that I've learned over time by coaching people through healing, by having a father who's a surgeon, by being and having to navigate health insurance, both using traditional insurance and also switching to a cost sharing program, which I shared about in the previous episode. If you're like, what's a cost sharing program? It's like insurance, but it doesn't use traditional insurance. If that still doesn't clarify things for you, go listen to the episode. It's amazing. I call it my health insurance hack to get all your functional medicine needs covered. Cost sharing programs are really, really amazing. But when you're in a cost sharing program, you get reimbursed always on the other side of paying. But I'm always telling people I'm a cash pay client. So I always get to hear what the cash prices are. So after doing this for about 2 years, I have a much more solid concept of what a doctor appointment's going to cost, what a pediatrician appointment's going to cost, what a dental appointment's going to cost. And if there's anything that's bigger, like I need a surgery, then my cost sharing program covers that. but I feel much more grounded in what labs cost, etc. And this has been somewhat frustrating because the numbers are not easy to collect, but it's empowering once you know them. So after all these years of personally experiencing and watching people heal and seeing what they actually need to heal, I would say generally, if you are someone who you've already been told you don't need surgery, it's not a surgical issue you're dealing with, which is most of y'all, like you've already had the colonoscopy and the endoscopy and you've had things looked at and the doctors are saying, surgery won't help you. That's usually going to be that kind of $10,000 plus dollar expense that hopefully your insurance is going to cover a lot of. If you're not in that range, then you're usually right under it in the thousands of dollar range. And that is including, when I say thousands of dollars, we're talking covering labs you need. And typically the labs you need when basically conventional medicine has failed you, you need functional medicine labs. I know the cost of those labs. I know the number of labs and the types of labs that our clients typically need. I'm going to share those prices in just a second so you can hear them, but you need to cover your labs to get the information to know what is causing your symptoms. You need to be able to pay for supplements because medications, while they're not bad, they're usually not going to fix everything. So there is a supplement component, and that's usually a next big cost in it. And then there's the practitioner cost. So those are the three things that are going to get you into that thousands dollar range. But I don't typically, like, if you do this in the most concise, most least wasteful way, which is exactly how I built my program, the Better Belly Blueprint, to do it for clients, you're not hitting $10,000. You're just not. So I would say that there's one exclusion to that, but it's very, very different reason that you're going to top $1,000, and I will share what that is. So let's talk real quick about numbers. Why is it thousands of dollars range? So you are listening to this podcast, you're dealing with maybe gut issues would be common. So constipation, bloating, diarrhea, acid reflux, abdominal pain, pelvic pain. You might be dealing with some hormone issues, PMS, amenorrhea, meaning no period, or endometriosis, or again, all the things that can come with hormones, infertility. You might have some skin issues. We've dealt with clients with issues in every part of their body. So their brain fog, insomnia, irritability, difficulty focusing, poor memory. We've dealt with issues with eyes, eye pressure, and yellowing eyes, and skin issues, acne, eczema, psoriasis, rashes, just everything. It's hard to list it all right off the top of the head, but if you're here, you've got some issues that are not being helped by traditional medicine. When you come into the Better Belly program, what I found is that people need usually at minimum 3 labs: an HTMA lab, which is a hair sample analysis for minerals and heavy metals. It is $80. The GI map, which is a stool test. I don't care if you've had another stool test before. If it hasn't been specifically the GI map, then I've just found that the other labs miss things. Even if it's a functional lab like Genova Diagnostics. So the GI map, which is $395, the Zoomer, which is $480. And the Zoomer is the best food sensitivity test I know out there. Even if you've had 70 food sensitivity tests before, I haven't met another food sensitivity test that does protein peptide analysis, which is a type of testing that is best for permanent food sensitivities. Most, if not all, of the food sensitivity tests I've seen, whether it's conventional or even functional labs like an MRT, which is a functional lab, or conventional labs, which you're going to get from like a doctor, these are typically either allergy tests, which is IgE, or they're whole food testing, which is IgA, IgG. And this whole food testing, it's looking at basically your body's reaction to foods that you've developed over time due to leaky gut, which means you can actually undevelop it. So every time you get one of these whole food sensitivity tests, which is Viome, MRT, I don't know, there's a bunch of other ones. It's honestly every test I've ever seen that's food sensitivity test other than the Zoomer. They actually change over time, and they don't evaluate your permanent food sensitivities. So they can either miss permanent food sensitivities, or you feel like you're constantly changing your diet and you're sensitive to this thing, and then you avoid it for a year, and the next time you test it, you're not sensitive, so then you eat it again. And there's a science to it. But as to why that happens, just so you know that it's not just like magical and annoying, but the Zoomer helps you avoid that problem and actually get results. Then on top of it, if you have hormone problems, we're going to be looking at the Dutch test, which should be $300 if someone's not upcharging you ridiculous amounts. And then the last test is the organic acids test, and I usually only have clients get that if they test positive for our mold self-assessment inside of the Better Belly Blueprint, and that test will be around $300 out the door. So that's what those labs cover. So let's say you have the HTMA, the GI map, and the Zoomer. That's about, let's see, $900 for those 3 labs. Now you have the 3 labs you need. Let's say that's all the only labs you need. And you do the labs, you get your results, and you finally can create a plan for yourself that will take you A to Z, everything you need to heal. The supplements for that out the door, you're usually going to be looking at like your supplements are going to be between $800 to $1,000 for your first order if you buy 1 bottle of everything you need. And then subsequent months, it's going to be in that $200 to $300 range to just buy refills. And that should last for about typically 3 to 6 months that you're going to be buying refills, because you're going to finish protocols. Particularly the first ones you finish are the pathogen protocols. And so other than that, we typically are only retesting 1 test, which is the HTMA. Typically, sometimes we will do other retesting, and my program walks you through how to know if you need another retest. But I'm a very conservative retester because the main test you use to know if something worked is your symptoms. Are you getting better? And so many of our clients do get better that we don't need to go chase down other issues. The last cost, so labs about $1,000 minimum if you're looking at the actually getting the data you need to heal. The next one is supplements, which just now we were talking about about maybe $2,000 minimum dollars for supplements, and then over like a 3 to 6 month period, and then practitioner costs. Now this one varies the most. Like when you join the Better Belly Blueprint program, you're paying a one-time fee, and once you're in, you're in. But what I find is that most practitioner fees, when someone comes and tells me I worked with a functional doctor in my area or I found someone online, the cost they're quoting to me is like, I paid $3,000 to work with someone for 3 months. This is a very common number that I'm hearing. Our program is not that cost at all. It's just a fraction of that cost. And it's not just for 3 months. It is, you get access to the course for an unlimited amount of time. So you can go through the entire process. And then we have ways where you can get coaching for either just months at a time or lifetime coaching, whichever process or program works best for you. So that is like the place where I find people can save the most amount of money is working with a practitioner maybe not even a practitioner, but a program, a process, like a group coaching situation. You're going to save so much more money and still get the process that you need to heal. Because as much as it feels like your health is some mystery and you need some unique thing to heal, and I totally get it. You probably feel that way if nothing has worked thus far. There's actually a limited number of things that can cause your symptoms. And I go over that in my free training that I created, where you can just go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. And I go over the 5 toxin trap that is giving all of my clients their symptoms. So my clients with GI symptoms, my clients with skin issues, my clients with hormone issues, my clients with brain fog or mood issues, all of those issues are caused by the 5 toxin trap. And that's what the labs we work with find. And when you find the 5 toxin trap that you're stuck in and you get out of it, your symptoms go away. It's a really, really beautiful thing. And that's the nature of functional medicine, is helping you find those things. If you've already paid for somebody, the next big thing I always hear is, but I already worked with someone who does functional medicine. Many people do not do functional medicine well or thoroughly, one or the other, or both. And when you're not thorough enough, they might find one of the parts of the 5 toxin trap, but they're not finding all parts of the 5 toxin trap. And the 5 toxin trap, they're even categories. So they might have addressed one category, like one category is pathogens. They might have found one pathogen in you, like Candida, but they didn't find other pathogens that are present as well because they weren't being thorough. They weren't listening to your symptoms. And in the Better Belly Blueprint, we actually have a symptom evaluator that helps you determine what labs are going to show you the relevant pathogens that are going to be in your body. And it is so accurate that, again, most people only need the labs that they're ordering the first time around to find everything that they need. And then they're healing, right? So that really, really keeps your costs as low as possible. So again, that's like in the thousands of dollars range. And I would say that is the cheapest thing I know. So what I want to move on to is tip number 2. Tip number 2 is imagine your minimal viability. Now, if you guys have never heard minimal viability, you're welcome. I am so excited to introduce you to this concept. So typically minimal viability is shared about in like a biology class, I think in a fairly dry manner, but the implications for minimal viability are fascinating. So minimal viability, if you learn about it in a biology class, it's going to be like, what's the minimum amount of things that somebody needs to, or something needs to function. So a cell, like if you are studying cells in biology, you need to know what's the minimal amount of things that cell needs to function. You need the mitochondria, you need all the little organelles inside it, you need a cell membrane. There's all these different pieces and components of it. And if you take one of those things out, the cell stops functioning. Interestingly enough, our cells, the way they currently are at minimal viability. Eyeballs currently are at minimal viability. You can't like take out a blood vessel or take out certain fluids or take out something and the eyeball still functions. And then a more simple, I'd say the simplest example I could come up with, which has nothing to do with biology, is a chair. So minimal viability of a chair is 3 legs that are positioned equidistant apart, right? So you don't want 3 legs that are all on one edge of the chair. That wouldn't work. And again, most chairs maybe right now have 4 legs. It's just a more common way that we do it, but you can have a stool with 3 legs. If you have a chair with 2 legs, it has not reached minimal viability and it won't work. Okay, now you're like, Allison, why did you just lecture me on minimal viability? Well, this is good news, but it also might feel weird to your brain to consider, but it's super powerful when we're considering how to accurately estimate your cost of healing. And this ties in really closely with the first point I made on managing expectations. I want you to imagine you're at the other side of healing your body, and you now know the exact steps you needed to take along the way to heal it. You were like, that's the labs I needed. These were the practitioners I needed to see. These were the supplements I needed to buy. This was the type of therapy I needed to go to, like visceral manipulation or chiropractic care or whatever you end up doing at the end to get rid of all your problems, your neck pain, your headaches, your migraines, your TMJ, your difficulty swallowing, your acid reflux, they're all gone. On the other end of it, you now can look back and say, if I took one of these pieces out of healing, this wouldn't have worked. And granted, there are probably things you're doing right now that are not part of your minimal viability. They're like extra, they're unrelated. But the goal in healing is that you can hit minimal viability with as little mistakes, essentially, or errors, essentially dabbling in things that are completely irrelevant as possible, because that's where the loss in money comes. Now, if you imagine your minimal viability, and I know that's not a concrete concept, but it's this abstract idea. There's minimal viability of number of practitioners, number of labs you had to buy, number of supplements you had to buy, number of therapies or therapy sessions you had to do. You now know it's going to have costs. Let's say we know that's $5,500, maybe over the course of 6 months or a year or something. It is not going to cost less than that. The only way you can make it less is saying, okay, well, you can take a very specific thing and say, is there any way I can find this lab for cheaper? And one of the things I have found over time is that this is the way to make your cost of healing as low as possible. For example, a very big problem that I've seen is that labs, when I just have research like a GI map online or an HTMA, they're typically $50 to $100, but actually more often $100 more on average compared to the wholesale price. So we get our labs for our clients as close to wholesale price as we possibly can. And when I look at what people are selling online, again, they're marking them up on average $100. So if you need to, at the end of the day, buy 4 functional labs to learn that you have candida and learn that you have mold toxicity and learn that you have H. pylori and learn you have low stomach acid and learn you have whatever you're going to find, and then get the protocols you need to heal, those 4 labs, if you're paying $100 markup on them, that's $400 you didn't need to spend. And so in the Better Belly Blueprint, we get them to you without that markup. So but the minimal viability doesn't change. And what I'm seeing when people are really quote unquote wasting money or feel like they're wasting money is they are failing to hit minimal viability because they're so afraid to spend. They're so afraid to move forward that you're not even giving yourself the chance to get the 3 legs on your stool. You're so afraid you're going to buy 6 legs for your stool. I think is kind of what I'm seeing, is that someone's like, well, what do I really need that? Yes, you do. And unfortunately, it's the role of your health practitioner to help you find minimal viability. No extra fluff, no extra things. And that's something that I have worked so hard for the last 6 years to do. And I found, thankfully, we do so freaking well in the Better Belly Blueprint. And I've crystallized all of my practices to get people the most amount of healing in the shortest amount of time for the least amount of steps and the least amount of cost. And that I've crystallized into the Better Belly Blueprint. Now, you don't have to work with me, but I do, like, as you're thinking about things, that's why managing expectations matters, because minimal viability is a thing. There is going to be a cost at the end of the day, because health insurance won't cover many of the things you need it to or want it to. However, again, there is a hack to that. If you want to learn more about how to get health insurance to cover functional medicine labs and practitioner fees, go and listen to the previous episode to this, where I talk about cost sharing programs, and in particular, the one that I recommend. And I literally give you financial breakdowns on what it costs to be in traditional insurance versus cost sharing program number 1, which is what my husband and I are in, and then cost sharing program number 2, which is the one that I actually recommend. I know there's a reason we're not in number 2, but the second program, which is what I highly recommend. It is an amazing program. It covers so many things. So go listen to that episode if you do want more things covered by insurance. But I think the biggest problem and the biggest thing that throws us off when we are estimating our cost of healing is there are 2 expectations that we have subconsciously walk with and expect, which is, number 1, the expectation that health insurance is going to pay for everything. So that makes anything over $10 or $100 feel expensive. But if you found a car, like a brand new Tesla for $100, first off, you probably wouldn't believe it actually works or whatever. But if you just knew it worked and it's $100, you would say, this is the biggest steal in the world and I'm going to buy this car. Again, you actually might not trust it enough to buy it. But for the sake of the point, we are assuming it functions just fine. And I don't know, your grandpa wants to give it to you for $100 or whatever. That's actually what's happening in there's functional health practitioners who are actually offering you the value of a Tesla and giving it to you for $250 or $1,000. So when you want the scale of your magnitude of your brain to be able to understand that this is a win and this is a good price for the thing. It is going to cost me money at the end of the day. So the expectation, number 1 is health insurance should pay for everything. So it just makes anything over tens of dollars feel like a lot. And the other expectation is that, and I think this comes from, like, when we go to the doctor and our blood work is off and they say, okay, your iron was low, here's an iron pill. We've kind of developed this expectation that you need one thing to heal. So we think, okay, if I need one thing, if I'm just missing B vitamins, or someone's going to give me one thing to heal. I just need to go gluten-free. I just need whatever it is you think you need. I need one antibiotic to get rid of one pathogen in my body. When you have that expectation, that also would lower the cost. If you only needed one supplement or one round of antibiotics or one visit to the doctor, it's inherently going to be a lower cost experience. But when you have a chronic issue that doesn't improve after you've tried to change your diet and after dozens of doctor visits and after dozens of labs, your body's already pointing you to the fact that you need layers of improvement. And that's, again, where that 5 toxin trap comes in, where You need to get all 5 components of the toxin trap and every layer inside that each category of the 5 toxin trap to get healed. And it's not impossible. It is a finite amount of issues. Even though it might sound like a lot, it's finite and you can work through them and be done with them. Again, if you want to learn more about the 5 toxin trap, just go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. You're going to learn more about it there. So I will say everybody's situation is unique who's listening to this. Some of you guys are listening, your $3,000 solution to heal. Some of you, it's going to be more. And the reason for that primarily is if you look at mold. If you have mold toxicity, and maybe some of you listening know you do, maybe some of you listening are like, really? Who deals with mold toxicities? It's not me. Maybe you really don't think you do, but you do. Again, my program helps you to figure that out. But if you have mold toxicity, usually a big component of that is being exposed to mold currently, and then that's a house issue. So the housing component suddenly makes things much more expensive, whether you have to move or you have to find the mold and hire a mold inspector and then remediate. All of that increases the cost, but that's actually not even the cost for your body. That's still the cost more so for like the house or the home. So that is different. I'd say again, body healing tends to only be in the thousands of dollars range when it comes to functional medicine done really well, really accurately, really concisely, really quickly. Okay, so that's tip number one, manage expectations. We want to be in that thousands of dollars range mentally. Tip number 2, imagine your minimal viability, meaning you have a concept that it's going to cost something. It's going to cost a certain number of labs and a certain number of supplements and a certain number of practitioner connections to heal. You have a concept of what the range is like. And I guess the last thing I didn't share about imagining minimal viability is once you have that number in mind, what you can do is prepare. So what I like to think of this is set money aside. Maybe this month you're not going to put anything into your health because you didn't find a practitioner you want to work with, or you're kind of waiting to find your next step. Well, put money aside, have a savings account that's specifically for health expenses, or start finding ways to make money. I actually have the next episode coming out. I'm going to be sharing creative ideas for how to make money. Even if you don't make money, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom, 10 creative ideas for how to generate cash so that you can pay for your health and healing. And the last thing is do things like minimize expenses elsewhere. So cancel subscriptions, limit vacations, or do staycations. I cannot tell you how many times I have had, guys, this is crazy. And this gets a little personal because maybe some of y'all, I'm not hating on anybody, but I've had people come into my office. I listen to their symptoms that really directly outlines or like overlaps with very specific labs we need to do. I show them the healing plan. I show them the labs they need. I show them the cost it's going to take. And they look at it and they'll say, oh, I can't afford that. But literally right when they came into the appointment, they just talked about their all expenses included trip to the Bahamas that they just took for 10 days. And I know that like maybe that was a cost-effective trip, but it's still very costly. So these kind of thousands of dollar vacation trips people take, while I'm very pro vacation, pro getting time away with your family, pro resting, pro not working all the time, you can also do vacations in a simpler way. You can do vacations in less expensive ways if you are trying to do something like heal yourself. So that's number 2, imagine minimal viability. Number 3, the three thing that I find has been super helpful in being able to just accurately estimate how much it's going to cost you to heal is get in touch with the cost of healthcare. What do I mean by that? What I mean is learn what cash-based prices are for appointments in your area. So doctor appointments, dentist appointments, vision appointments, even just pharmaceuticals. How much does that pharmaceutical cost? This was a very painful lesson for me to learn because we very suddenly got shifted from employer-based healthcare, just traditional healthcare, in 2022 to our employer not providing healthcare. And I did a buttload of research to try and figure out, did I want to try and buy healthcare through the marketplace, which is so expensive, or did I want to do something else? And I knew cost sharing programs were a thing. And so I knew if I do a cost sharing program, we're going to be doing a lot more cash pay things, but I had no idea what the cash pay prices were. This is almost like knowing you want to buy a laptop, but having no idea, are laptops $10 or are they $30,000? Like you literally don't know. And it's the not knowing that can actually be incredibly anxiety inducing and then shocking when you learn what the number is. So now at this point, when I was living in Detroit, I could not find a pediatrician who would see my daughter for less than $250 per appointment. And what I decided is that is just what I'm going to have to pay. That is clearly the marketplace cost. Now, we moved to a different city and I actually found a pediatrician who costs her $75 to go to. And now that I was like, had been starting to mentally budget $250 for her pediatrician appointments, I'm like, wow, $75. It's such a steal. It's a good rate. He's a great doctor. I love the office. It's really good service. I really feel the value of it because I was sunk into the market cost. I was really surprised to find that vision and dental appointments were really significantly affordable. So for the cost it was going to be for us to keep our vision and dental through Cobra, we could literally just pay for it. Like it was like $74 a month, I think, to pay for dental and vision through Cobra, which like, again, doesn't last for forever. But I was looking at, do I want to pay for Cobra for stuff? And I was looking at, okay, if I get a vision appointment, what does it cost just to get a prescription update? And so I called around and I called multiple dental or vision places and said, what does a checkup look like? And there's additional costs they'll add on, like if you get an examination to see what type of lenses you would need, like is it contact lenses? It has like an additional fee. I don't know if it was $50 or whatever. At the end of the day, what I decided or what I learned was I could pay just out of pocket without Cobra just a checkup fee, like my annual fee for vision, for less than the cost of me having to pay like every month this $74. And so it became this thing of, I feel knowledgeable now. And maybe if I knew I'm prone to eye issues, or there's a genetic issue that I'm really concerned about, and I want to make sure I have vision insurance in case I need a big, very expensive eye surgery or eye procedure, then yes, maybe I would have paid for and kept the Cobra for $74 a month. But at my age and with my family background, I have no expectation I'm going to have an eye issue that I'm going to need covered right now. I can always get insurance coverage later if I want. And again, eye and vision and dental insurance are so much cheaper and more affordable than medical. But just giving you an example of how knowing what the numbers are, even if I didn't like them, like I didn't love paying $250 for a pediatrician appointment, it also made me really think. I remember my daughter was she was really young, probably less than a year, and she was getting sick frequently from daycare, and she'd always have to have a doctor's note to come back. And it was like, I don't want to pay $250 for a doctor's note. So I found something called Blueberry Doctor. It's like a virtual digital doctor portal. And I think I could pay for a year subscription at the time for like $170. And I was like, $170 is less than $250, and I get a year worth of appointments. So if she got sick, we would wait for her to heal. And then as she started to looking better, I'd set up an appointment. They have a way where you can take photos and take their temperature and look in their ears and send all that data through the portal. And I could get that note, and I could even get it at 8 p.m. at night. I wouldn't have to even travel to her pediatricians, or it didn't have to be, work hours, which is when I was working. So this worked out really well. And so, again, there was this initial fear of like, oh, like this thing's so expensive, but then you find workarounds. You learn what the numbers are. You learn that the functional lab test costs $500, but is there a way or a place you can get it for less? Is there a different health insurance you could use, like a cost sharing program that will cover that lab? You start to learn these things, and you suddenly are not attached to this very, very hidden, very not customer service based traditional health insurance program that actually doesn't even cover that much stuff. So I really just, even if you're still going to stay on traditional health insurance, like I talk a lot more about like even making, how to make that decision, et cetera, on the previous episode. But even if you're going to stay on traditional health insurance, just knowing those cash-based prices, there are times where literally, even if you have insurance, it's just going to be easier to pay cash pay for a pap smear or whatever. If they don't know you have insurance, you can just say, I'm cash pay. And a great example of this, I saw a reel about maybe 2 weeks ago now from a woman who teaches people how to manage their money. And she was talking about this $500 bill she got for going and seeing her physician assistant, her PA, for like a 15-minute meeting. I think she needed like a prescription for her skin. She was sharing a little bit of the details. It was like a very short appointment. And when she goes in, they give her insurance. And then I think it's like a month later, she gets this bill for $500 and she's trying to make sure, like, did they bill the wrong code? Did they double bill me? What's going on? So she's checking all these things. And at the end of the day, she can't get her bill to be any lower. And she's basically just saying, these are all the steps you can take. And she even asked people, like, do you have any better advice for how to get this covered? And one person said, don't let them know you have health insurance, because if they do know you have it, they have to charge it. But don't let them know you have health insurance. And when you ask to cash pay, that price is going to be much, much lower. And that is accurate. Here's why. Really quick thing, and I actually cover this a lot more in episode 182, how to get the most out of your health insurance in 2024, where I actually had my dad come onto the podcast, and who's a surgeon, and talk about why healthcare works, the health insurance works the way it does, and how to if you're going to stay on it, how to get the most out of it. But basically what'll happen is health insurance companies, because they will pair with these huge organizations, these hospitals that supply thousands of patients a year, they will say, we want to get a discount on the services you provide. And so the hospital, to make money after the discount, so let's say the discount's 40%, so the insurance doesn't have to pay that. Well, they're going to have the price is going to be $500, so that when you take off 40%, it's X amount of dollars, and then insurance will pay $100 off of it, and you get the rest of it, which is, the price must be a lot higher than that if her bill was $500 after insurance paid. But when you do cash pay, they're not talking to insurance anymore. So they'll give you a totally different price that's basically not blown up, because there is no discount they have to account for. Basically a hospital just needs to get the right price to pay their staff to function and pay for the building and the heating and the water flowing through it, right? Hospitals do generate profit, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to also like break even. Many hospitals operate in the red, and hospitals that operate in the green are very proud of it. And those are the hospitals that usually can afford to give their employees regular raises and keep their staff happy and have nicer facilities. But many hospitals are operating at break even would be good for them, right? So again, all this being said, health insurance is a total pain. I think it's a very evil system. It's very broken. But you're not trying to fix the health insurance system. You're just trying to make the whole system work the best possible for you to lower your cost so you can actually get what you need. And these are my 3 tips. 3 tips are: manage expectations, have a concept of your minimal viability, and that minimal viability exists. If you don't hit minimal viability, you will not get better, and that will cause you to waste money. And then know the costs of health. This will just help ground you of knowing this is what a laptop costs, this is what a car costs, this is what a couch costs, this is what apples at the grocery store cost. Same thing with health. Like, this is what an antacid costs, this is what medication costs are like, this is what, a doctor appointment cost is like in cash, if you're just to pay in cash. Very, very powerful process. Go and just call the doctors you already have, the dentists, the family doctor you already have, the OBGYN you already have. Call their office and say, what's the cash pay, like what would I have to pay in cash for my pap smear this year or for an appointment? And the funny thing is, give them grace. They usually don't know. They'll have to like pass the phone off to somebody else and put you on hold. They have no idea. But they will eventually get the number to you usually. And then you can write it down and just know it. So those are my 3 big tips for how to accurately estimate how much it's going to cost you. You're going to be in the thousands of range. So set your expectations. Make sure you hit your minimal viability. Hit your 5 toxin trap. Don't miss your minimal viability. Don't get a two leg chair. It's not going to work. And then just know what the cash pay prices are. And then go back and listen to my previous episode on my health insurance hack for getting functional medicine covered. Go back and listen to episode 181, how to make health more affordable, with the financial advisor, Catherine Pomerantz. Episode 182, how to get the most out of your health insurance in 2024. There are so many things I'm trying to put into this podcast just to help you guys feel more grounded and also less alone, because this process of paying for health is so rarely talked about. It's almost taboo. People feel very uneducated about it. So I just hope it even makes you just feel like somebody's talking about it. You've got a friend on the other side. I've been through it. I've had to pay for my own health, whether it's a cesarean or my functional medicine healing journey, all these different things. And I feel more grounded, but the process has been painful. And hopefully my process helps your process be a little less painful. So that's it for today's episode. Come and hang out next week if you want to learn 10 plus creative ideas to fund your healing that don't involve like getting another job. I'm not going to say like go get a side hustle. Or at least like I'm not going to say go get a part-time job. So come back, listen to those ideas, see if 1 or 2 or 3 of them stick out. You might be able to generate some cash and be able to pay for your next steps in healing and finally start feeling better and hitting your health goals. So I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys today, and I will see you guys next week. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.